Hey everybody, what is going on? CerealOverdrive here, and today I'm playing Entropia Universe. What we're going to be doing today is something that I've been hesitant to do. This is something that I've held off doing for a long time, but I think I need to say something. I think I need to do something. I think I need to make this video just so you guys can hear my points, I can have peace of mind, and yeah. Anyways, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing a 50p demining run, but we are going to be talking about politics. So those of you guys who don't care about U.S. politics, you don't want to hear about Donald Trump, you don't want to hear about Joe Biden, you know who you're voting for, you can move on. You don't need to watch this video. I'm not offended if this video gets a lower view count than normal. In fact, if you want to show your dislike for it, feel free to hit the dislike button. There's nothing wrong with that. Completely understand where you're coming from, because honestly, in a way, I'm coming from the same place, but at the same time, I think this is so important that the people who are going to listen and might get something out of this, I think it's important to make this video just for anyone who's interested, anyone who'll hear me out and has sort of a open mind to this sort of thing. So yeah, for people who don't know, and I have no idea how you wouldn't know this, there's an election coming up in the United States of America. And what that means is this is probably the most divisive divisive election I've ever seen. This is the most, just the craziest election I've ever seen. I've seen quite a few elections, and this isn't how things normally go. Usually both sides are not this fired up. You usually don't see protests. You don't see people getting shot. You don't see the crazy amount of things that you're seeing right now. And that's one of the reasons why I was so hesitant to make this video, but I felt like it was needed because, I want to try and appeal to the people who listen to me and just tell them why I'm voting the way I'm voting. So full disclosure here, I'm voting Democrat this election, I guess. Not across the board. There's some Republicans I like, there's some Democrats I like. But as far as the presidential election goes, for me at least, the choice was clear. I'm definitely going to be voting for Joe Biden. It's out there, those of you guys who love Trump. And I know there's quite a few of you watching this video that are going to call me out and whatever. That's cool. The goal of this video, though, and the goal of my vote isn't really for the Democrats or the Republicans to win or lose. It's to get the best result for America, for, I guess, everybody, right, for the future. The goal here, for me at least, is not to preserve my taxes or lower my taxes or get free health care for myself or anything like that. As far as me personally goes, I'm taken care of. I've been taken care of through every era run by every party for my whole lifespan, right? I'm not voting for myself, okay? I'm the things that I like, the things that I really want to push for are probably not going to affect me, but I think it's important because it's important about the legacy that we leave, right? So here's sort of the breakdown, I guess, of why I'm voting the way I'm voting. Honestly, I don't care about personal stuff, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on as far as Joe Biden and people saying that he took bribes, which all the records show he didn't, and then there's people saying that Trump took bribes, which the records are a little murkier on, to be honest. But there's no clear-cut thing that either person took any bribes from any parties. It does appear that Trump did take some bribes in the form of hotel reservations and things like that, which, I think that's something that we need to look into. But I don't think that should be something that, we just died. I don't think that should be something that should sort of focus your vote, because in reality, if whoever you're voting for is taking bribes and getting the job done, it's corrupt and it shouldn't happen. But you're still getting the job done, right? For instance, what is going on here? Am I stuck in here? Oh, no, there we go. There's the door. For instance, if I'm voting for Donald Trump and he took $10 million or whatever from Russia, this is only hypothetically. I really don't think he took $10 million from Russia. That's a made-up number. No, the number exists. I'm not saying the number doesn't exist, but yeah, you guys get what I'm saying. Yeah, this is just an example. So let's say he took those bribes, but he's still getting everything that I need to do done. Then it's cool, right? Take all the bribes you want, as long as you're really pushing us forward, in my opinion, at least. And that's a pretty controversial opinion. But basically, I'm not voting based on personal beliefs, or not personal beliefs. I'm not voting based on how someone is personally. I'm voting more based on the sort of what they're behind in the policies that they've got. And the number one policy for me so far has been environmental, and the environmental changes that have been sort of brought about by the Trump administration. If you look at it, the thing with Trump is there's a lot of like pollution things that he's rolled back, okay? Like he's rolled back a lot of the pollution regulations, and I know what his logic is, right? The logic I always hear behind rolling back pollution regulations is if other countries are polluting, so should we, and if anything goes too bad, the company that did that polluting is going to be sued, and they're going to disappear, and everything's going to be good. So I'm going to attack those 2 points, and then I'll move on to the next one. But basically, here's the thing, right? Like, if you're polluting willy-nilly, it is going to affect people. There are going to be people that are getting cancer. There's higher rates of cancer. In fact, if you go to some of these countries that are referenced as being extremely polluted and the reason that we should be able to pollute, Russia, China, it was like Russia, China, and India. Those are like the big 3 that are always referenced. If you've been to those countries like I have, you know that it is not a good thing. Like that pollution is not good. Like coming there from like the U.S., from the West, it was just ridiculous the amount of pollution that was in there. Like literally on one trip I lost my voice because of the amount of pollution. Like you'd cough or you'd sneeze and there'd be like a black in your hand. That's how bad it is, right? And the US is nowhere near that, don't get me wrong, and I don't think we're in danger of falling back to that, but that is like the worst case scenario. You sneeze and soot comes out of your nose, and it's just like it is horrible. And I know a lot of people haven't experienced that, but it is something that does stick with you, and it's something that's not good for you, obviously, right? Like miners, like coal miner, what is it, miner's lung, something like that. Like coal miners used to get it. Like that's a thing, and that's a thing that you can still get if you're, I think you can still get it if you're above ground and there's a lot of coal burning, or if there's a lot of pollution. Like you can get cancer from that. You can get all sorts of things that come along because of that, all sorts of negative health conditions and everything like that are going to come with that excess pollution. So when I see those regulations being rolled back, that worries me because I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forwards, right? I want regulations to be better. I want them to be at the very least upheld and not made better or worse, just where they are, and if possible making them better in the terms of the air that we breathe and, you know, the ground we walk on and everything like that. So that was sort of an important thing to me, and I like the fact that if you look at Joe Biden's policies, they really push towards solar and a lot of these sort of renewable energy sources that are clean. And I realize the production of solar panels isn't the best, right? Like there are questions of how we can make the production of solar panels and the production of windmills and everything like that cleaner, but they are not any cleaner than burning non-renewable energy. So if you're burning something like coal or gas, the thing is, yes, the coal or gas that you produce is, in some instances, it could be better. I think there's a weird statement, right? Like, I think it was Trump that said this in the last debate. He said, like, oh, yeah, like, when you produce a windmill, do you know how much pollution that causes? Well, the thing that he's not taking into consideration, or the thing that he omits, is that it does take pollution to build a coal plant, too. There's a lot of things that go into a coal plant, a lot of machinery that goes into that coal plant that does take an amount of pollution, does produce an amount of pollution to produce. So that's one of the things that's sort of omitted, and that's one of the things I think it's important to realize. You're not comparing apples to apples, right? Like it's a false narrative that's designed to trick people into thinking like windmills are polluting more than a coal plant. And the truth is, like, to create a windmill and to create a coal plant, probably about the same level of pollution. The difference is that once you've created that windmill, it's not going to be polluting anymore. Once you've created a coal power plant, it's going to be polluting, and it's going to keep polluting. And the same holds true for natural gas or oil. And I do realize there's things that we need oil for. So when you hear about things like Joe Biden supposedly, and I listened, I don't think that's actually what he said, saying that the oil industry needs to go or whatever it is, or end fracking and stuff like that, I think that we should do it more responsibly, but I don't think that we should be ending it because there's a lot of plastics and things like that that do require oil to make. So there's always going to be room for the oil industry. So people who are worried about those jobs, I don't think they really need to worry, because even if we completely move off of oil as far as what powers our energy, like what gives us energy, there's still a lot of products that do use that resource. So it's not going to be just a cut and dry, we're done type of thing, in my opinion. But I think it's important. I think it's important that we actually have a cleaner planet to live on, because going forward, that's going to become more and more important, especially when you look into the facts of, like, just the world that we're creating for our children, right? The world that we're creating for the future generation, it's not the best, right? We need to start tackling this stuff, and we need to start tackling it now. And obviously there were people that came before us that could have tackled this issue earlier, and there are countries that could be doing more and aren't doing enough, and I agree with that. I agree that there are countries out there that should really be doing more. But the fact that they're not doing more is not an excuse for us not to do what we can do, because this is this is one of the fallacies I think that's created, and especially around like environmental stuff. It's like, well, if one person pollutes, everyone should be able to pollute. Instead of that, what we should be doing is saying, if one person pollutes, we should really like tackle like why they're doing it and how to get them not to pollute. In the case of China, in the case of India, and a lot of these countries that are supposedly polluting, they're not the ones using the products that they're polluting to create. We're the ones using it. Like, if you go to China, not everybody has an iPhone. In the cities, there's a lot more, like, electronics and stuff like that. But if you go there, like, the iPhones and all that, they're usually being sold overseas to us. We're the ones that want that product, and then we're blaming them for the pollution that they cause to create the product that we're using. And it's sort of a little bit of a catch-22 there. And there are problems that are involved with that. But the fact is that they're not just polluting for themselves. They're polluting to create stuff that we could not have otherwise. If you want to create a iPhone or whatever you want to create in the US, there's a lot more regulations that you've got to go through, and what that means then is that it's going to cost more, okay? And that again, it's like saying that because they're doing it, we should be able to do it. That's not the case, right? Like, everybody likes to go back to World War II, but it's true, right? Like, if Hitler was killing the Jews, or if we sit there and we look at any genocide and we say because this genocide's going on, we should be able to kill people, that just creates a worse and worse world for us to live in. Instead, what we should look at is say, how can we create a system where nobody wants to kill anybody, right? How can we? Oh, I'm gonna get killed here. How can we fix the problem? You see what I'm saying? And that's like, I see a lot of these fallacies going on, and I feel like it's important to talk about, because it's something, you know, you guys listen to these videos while you're playing the game, and I know it's probably getting some people fired up, and honestly, it gets me fired up. That's why I swear to God, after this video, we're not really going to talk politics, okay? And I know no matter what happens, come probably November 3rd, November 4th, I guess, someone's going to comment on this video and say, I won. And it's not about you winning, it's not about me winning. Honestly, I would love to be wrong, right? If I don't think Trump's going to be good for the country. I really don't. I think that his attitude is very abrasive, and I think because of that, we've been living in a worsening society for the past 4 years. I think that a lot of racism, a lot of these things that were there, but just people were being nicer, right? People were sort of moving away from that. I've seen a lot of people that I know that live out in these rural communities that are like, just that the things that they say are a lot worse than the things they used to say. You know, I haven't seen it so much in the cities and stuff like that, but when I do like a work trip or something, when I'm going down south, it's just like, they're a lot more willing to say certain words that I have not heard myself ever say, right? You know, like, I've heard more N-bombs or N-words dropped in the past 4 years than I have over the last 20. Just to give you guys an example, like things, maybe not the last 20, maybe the last 10, let's say. So, you know, before that 4. But, like, that thing, that issue, it exists just because of, why is this here? Let's get rid of this. Whatever, leave it there. That exists just because of the stance that Trump has taken, because of what he's willing to say, because of what he's willing to do. And a lot of people, like it or not, they are going to follow the president. That's their source of morality. That's who they're going to follow. And if Trump's out there and he's fine, not saying the N-word, I'm not saying that he'd be fine saying that, but if he's fine saying, like, where was Black Lives Matter formed? And actually it was formed in Florida. If he's fine saying, where was it formed? It was formed by a terrorist group or whatever he's saying, right? If he's fine saying that, then there's going to be some people that are like, well, Trump's fine with this, so I should be okay to say the N-word. And that's not the world we want to live in, right? We don't want to get more and more abrasive with our language. We don't want to use these words to purposely hurt people. That's the other thing, right? You can say it. Like, if I'm quoting a book, that's different. I still wouldn't say that, but if I'm quoting a book, that's different than if you're using it to get under someone's skin. And that's what I've heard it used a lot more recently. Just to get under people, just to get into their heads, to mess with them, to just, I don't know, maybe, I hate to say it's racism because I just hate to think that, but I don't think it's coming from a good place, and I haven't seen that before, I guess. And I'm older than a lot of you guys, but like I just haven't seen that before, and it's crazy to see it coming out now. And it's one of those things that worries me. Like, that worries me. That's not what I like to see. I think that we should be moving away from that. I don't think that we should defund the police or anything like that, but I think that certain officers should have more training and certain officers should have different beats, right? Because it's I think the biggest thing that was brought up to me, and I don't honestly know like if any president supports this, but I think this is sort of good to cover, like the Black Lives Matter movement and all these protests. Like, I don't agree with the looting or anything like that, but I understand why the protests are going on, and I fully support that something needs to be done, right? Because there is some sort of racial selection that's done. And I think part of the problem is, part of the reason we get this violence is because police officers are going from one thing to another. They're always ready for things to pop off, and that's a hard world to live in for the police, I think. So I think if we split up the duties, right? Because when I'm at work, right, like what I've found when I'm working is it's best to specialize, okay? Like, I'm a back-end developer. There's database developers I work at. There's front-end developers I work with. And together we create this great team. I think we should do that for the police, right? There's certain people, like we've got detectives, they're good at investigating. And then you've just got beat cops, and they sort of do everything. I think we should split it up. There's some police that are doing, traffic tickets. There's some that are there just, in case we need them, like the SWAT team. And then there's some that are there just for your everyday stops, and some that are there for like varying levels of violence, and then some that are going to be responding only to the critical calls. And those are the guys with the most training. Those are the guys that we've got to trust. Those are the guys with the big guns ready to go in and save lives if they have to. But I don't think it's fair to say that everybody that's a police officer should always be put in that position anytime, because then you go from this scenario where one day they're, running around with their guns out about to get shot because they're busting some, mass murder serial killer type dude, to doing parking tickets. And I've definitely gotten into these, like, not altercations, but these things with cops where, like, they're going off on me, and I'm, I had one guy, he pulled me over for speeding, and he started screaming at me. I'm like, all right, let's, my hands are up. I'm like, let's calm down. Like, I'll pay the ticket. It's cool. Like, I'm not, if we can talk this out, but like, I'm not going to do anything. I'll get out of the car. I'll stay in the car, whatever you're cool with. I'm good with it too. Like, let's just calm the situation down first, and then, I'll pay whatever ticket I need to pay. That's cool. I'm good with that. Like, don't, he was, he thought, I forget what it was. He was like going off because he thought that I was coming from some area that I wasn't. He was just going nuts. I mean, he popped that that button on the what is it, the button on a gun holster, right? That's like that if that button's popped, that means like the cop's ready to go. Like, that thing was popped. I see his hand down there, and it's like, all right, let's calm this down. Let's take it back a step. What are we doing here? Like, what have I done that's like this bad? And after a while, like, he realizes I'm not making any sudden movements. I'm not yelling back at him. I'm just talking normally. Like, we've de-escalated the situation. He goes, oh yeah, I'm sorry about this. Like, I guess the other day he'd been working in a bad area, and he said, every time I run into someone, people are screaming at me. Some guy pulled a knife on me yesterday. I'm like, hey, it happens to all of us, but like, pat me down if you want. I've got no knife, nothing, like no guns. Like, we're good here. Like, but like things like that, and like interacting with him, I realized like the problem is that he's just ready to go because that's what happened yesterday. Yesterday he's going into these situations where he's saying like, am I going to be going home tonight? And that's a scary situation to be in, I can imagine. I mean, he had me in that situation, I guess. But like, I understand he's going from that to pulling over some dude that's going 10 over the speed limit. Like, the stakes aren't as high. I don't have any warrants out for my arrest or anything like that. Let's just chill out, talk it over, and whatever. I think he thought the car was stolen. That's what he thought I'd stolen the car for some reason, because it was this was when I was like a teenager. Was it? I don't know. This was a while back. I was driving my dad's car. That's what it was. And the names didn't match up with the name that I'd given him, and things were just popping off. It's like, whoa. Like, check the last names here. Like, let's calm this down. But yeah, it was just like, it was craziness. And looking back on it at the time, I'm like, man, I'm good at talking my way out of that situation. Like we de-escalated, that's good, but it's like that's not the position you should put me in, because well, what if I hadn't done that? What would have happened? I don't know. I don't think he would have shot me. I don't think that was where we were going with it, but I don't know. It's just like those situations, and that's one of the things I think we should like legalize more drugs, like de-escalate everything, right? As far as getting more militaristic as a society, more violent, I think we need to go the other way and make things a little bit easier. And I don't know why we went into this talk, because I really don't know if that's a position anyone supports. I do know that Biden is a little bit more pro-drug legalization, and in the 80s I do not agree with what he did. Never really agreed with that, and I think that there are better candidates on the Democratic side for that thing, and on the Republican side, honestly, like there are more libertarian-leaning Republicans that in this area do 100% agree with me. Drinking a little coffee here. And I think that's one of the important things to realize, right? Like, we're not, like, it's not black and white, okay? Like, there's things that I care about that, I agree with the Republicans on. For example, minimum wage is one of them. I don't think we should set a minimum wage for the whole country. Trump said that. I agree with him. And that's not a bad thing, right? We can all have our own opinions. We can take our own sort of tactics on all of that, but that's not one of those things I'm voting on. I'm voting mainly on the environment, let's be honest. The environment and sort of de-escalating the tensions that are across the nation. I want a president that's going to be able to stand up and sort of say, like, hey, this is wrong, but let's calm down. Let's stop taking things up to 10. Let's just dial them down to an 8, dial them down to a 6. Instead of escalating, de-escalate. I think that's one of the things that Trump just has not been good at doing. If we ignore all the little faux pas and things like that he does that are incorrect, because I really don't care about that, right? Like, if he has a weird handshake, which, he does, but whatever, right? Like, if he has a weird handshake, I don't give a shit. Shake hands however you want, right? Like, if short of dropping his pants in the middle of a, I don't know, United Nations meeting or something like that, like, I can't get too upset about whatever he does. But when he's doing these things and I see him making these speeches and it's like, telling one side off and saying the other side's 100% right, it's like, that's never true. Even in politics, that's never true. There's a lot of Democrats that want it to be black and white, and there's a lot of Republicans that want it to be black and white, and I think that's a fallacy. I think the second anyone says, like, Republicans are 100% right, Democrats are 100% wrong, you should just tune them out, because they're not listening, they're not thinking with their heads, they're not thinking through these ideas. And it's the same thing if, like, someone's like, Cereal, you're 100% right. No, you're wrong on that. And just because I have that statement means that you can't be right if you say I'm 100% right. Like, we all disagree on things, and that's okay. That's one of those things that it's like, we can disagree. That's cool. We can agree to disagree. There's no harm there. Let's equip this gun real quick and kill this guy. Yeah, we got some bullets. Let's do this before I get killed. I'm using a bigger monitor, so, like, I realized why people complain about the graphics in Entropia, by the way. I used to be using, like, a little just laptop monitor. I was always like, why do people complain about the graphics? Entropia is not that bad. And now that everything's blown up on my big, like, I've got a 32-inch screen, oh my god. Like, come on, Mindark. Maybe I just have something set wrong. Hopefully that's it. But it's, it could definitely be better. I think I'm going to die here. Oh, one shot away. That sucks. That's how it goes, though. And this really isn't about hunting or mining or anything like that. I want to more just get my message out. But yeah, environment and de-escalating tensions, those are sort of the two things I care about. And if we're looking into other things like the COVID response, I think that could be better. But I think that I think there is something to be said for letting it be done on a state-by-state basis, and I think that's more of the Republican approach. I don't know if that's what we need right now, but I can see how the Constitution lays that out. I can see the arguments that they're making for some of this stuff. I think when Trump says that masks don't work and things like that, I think that's utterly ridiculous, and I think that there's a body count that comes with a statement like that, and I think that should be laid right at his feet. And in some respects, I think that there is a court case to be made there, because you're willingly, I don't know, hopefully not knowingly, but you are willingly saying something that is going to cause people to die, right? If I say something like step out in front of traffic and I can convince people to do that, should I be held liable for my actions, right? I don't know. But I think that's something that should be discussed. Because, I don't know, maybe he really doesn't believe that masks work, but the thing is, it's like, this is like one of the things that I disagree with, like, vehemently. I've never disagreed on this, because I've never known that this was a stance I have to take, but I believe in science. I think that science is a thing that exists, and I think that scientists know what they're doing, and there are things that they're split on. There is research that needs to be done. There are committees that get things wrong. That does happen. But generally, when a scientific form is held and everybody agrees that something happens, it probably is right, especially when it comes to bacteria and stuff like that we can study. With history, there's these like false narratives that can be laid just because, like someone finds a CerealOverdrive video in, 3005,020 BC, and they're like, oh, look at this game Entropia Universe that everybody was playing. He made thousands of these videos, so it must have been big. Like, I get that. There can be false narratives and stuff like that, but it's a little bit different when you're researching, because you can get in there with a microscope, you can run tests, and there is a scientific method. We all learned about it in school, I assume, and like, it works. It's a great way to figure out if something's bullshit or not. And with masks, that has been applied to masks. That was applied in 19th century, the 1800s, like maybe 1900s, early 1900s. Like, we shouldn't be arguing this anymore. Like, it's a thing that exists. And when I see stuff like that, that's the other thing that like really just gets to me, because it's just like, there's these things that are so obvious, and then people say, well, he doesn't know better. He's just speaking out of his ass. How would he know? He's not a scientist. And it's like, yeah, but there's a statement you can make that's called no comment, right? Like, that is something that is viable. That's something you can do. If you're president of the United States and you don't know what you're talking about, you should be willing to say it, or you should be saying, hey, let's appeal to the experts, see what they have to say. I'd love to hear that, or I'd love to hear him just, maybe he can give me some scientist who says that masks don't work, but it's just like the denial, I guess, of reality is something that really worries me. That is dementia, right? Like, when someone goes through dementia, they start to deny reality. They start to just not be able to tell truth from fiction. And some of the stuff that I'm seeing, it seems like that's what's going on, right? Like, did we really kill Osama bin Laden? Like, how is that something that's debatable? And I don't know. It's just stuff like this. I know some of that is misdirection, right? If you look at the Osama bin Laden thing, that came out right about when I think Trump retweeted that right about the same time that whole Chinese bank account thing broke. If you look, a lot of these crazy stories that he comes up with, they are actually planned. It is like a form. I think it's a form of 3D chess, right? Like, he's sitting there, he's listening to everything that's going on. He knows that some shit's coming out, so he says something utterly ridiculous that people won't hold him to. Because honestly, like, when he says, oh, Osama bin Laden didn't die, I'm just like, okay, he's just being a lunatic, whatever, right? That's just a weird, crazy little thing that he's saying. And then, the media focuses on that instead of focusing on the bank accounts or some negative parts of the press that are coming out. And a lot of politicians do that, and I think that's extremely effective. So that's one of those things, like, I don't like it, but I can see why he's doing it, and I know that that's something that other politicians do. So there's a lot of things like that I will actually give Trump a pass on. But when it comes down to it, when I look at the things that matter to me, right, the environment, that's a big one. Handling COVID and sort of maybe not even forcing people to wear masks, but saying that they work at least, like, that should not be a strong statement. Me saying masks, like, I said that in a stream, and someone's like, Cereal, you need to leave politics out of this. And I literally was like, are you a fucking moron? That's not politics. Like, nowhere in the world is it politics if I say, like, gravity pushes down on me and the sky's blue today. Like, you can look up and the sky's blue, or I'm colorblind. That's it. Like, that is it. There's no debate there. That's not a political opinion. Not everything needs to be political. And it's crazy that some of these stances I've seen him take are just ridiculous. And there's millions of them. Maybe not millions, but there's a lot of them that just blow my mind. And so far from Biden, I haven't seen as much of that. He does have his gaffes, but so does Trump. Both of them have a huge highlight reel of things that they've said that are utterly ridiculous, and it's just like, what's going on with that? Like, just misses as far as speech go, right? Like, you could make the same thing of me. If you go through all my videos and you come up with a bunch of Serial has dementia type clips, and maybe I'm falling for this when I say Trump says stuff like that. You could do it. You could easily do it. And I think you can do it with Biden. You can do it with Trump. So I just sort of throw those things out. But yeah, like the tax on math, the tax on science, I think that's utterly ridiculous. I think that's something that is just, I've never thought that would be something that should be or could be political, but I guess it is. And yeah, the environment, that's like a big one for me. Just giving subsidies to solar power, wind power, and renewable energy in general, and making it so that we're just living in a place that has more renewable energy, and, you know, to recover the economy from COVID and everything like that. I think it's a really good strategy to put that money, put that time into renewing the American ecosystems, that we're more prepared for a renewable future. Putting the money, you know, instead of investing this money in building new coal plants, invest in building solar plants, because it's going to be the same amount. And when people say we need to be resource independent from other countries, solar is the way to do it. Nobody's going to block the sun from us. If they can block the sun from us, like, they can block oil, they can block whatever, right? Like, if you're going to say, like, I don't know if this is an argument, but Trump said, like, apparently solar relies on other countries. I assume because of solar panel manufacturing, right? But that's something like, once you've got the solar panels, they're going to last 20, 30 years. And I don't think that as a nation we could I don't think there's going to be a 30 or 40 year war with, I mean, that would be, if that happens, we have time to build whatever resources we need, right? If we're in a 30 or 40 year war, we have time to build oil, I don't know. We have time to build as many power plants as we want, basically. But yeah, just, man, I hate making this video because I know it's going to be very, I know there's going to be some very critical people of me. And I'm hesitant to release it, but I think it's important that you guys just listen to this if you want to, and take what I have into consideration. I don't want anybody to vote just based on what CerealOverdrive says, because that's ridiculous. But at the same time, I think it's important just to get my opinions out there, and with whatever power I've got, try and sway people to vote the way that I think they should. I'm not saying make your whole state blue or anything like that. I'm just saying I think when it comes to the presidential election, the choice needs to be for Biden, because the choice for Trump just leads to a more polluted and less forward-looking society, right? It leads to a worse society for our kids, worse society for everybody to live in, and, you know, short term it might be better. The economy, the stock market might do okay. We might be fine there, but in 10 years, I don't think that's going to be what we're looking for, and I don't think it's going to get us to the best possible future that we could have in 10 years from now. And that's what I'm voting for. I'm trying to vote with forward thinking in mind, and that's I think that's why we've got to vote for Biden here. But yeah, I don't know. It's November 3rd is definitely it's coming up quickly, and I'm pretty stressed about it, you know, because it's there are things that people can do to block various, you know, bills and stuff like that from going through, but the president does have quite the say, and he can create quite the issues for people, right? But yeah, hopefully things turn out the best for America, and, you know, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully, if Trump wins, the world's going to be better for it. I really do hope that, and I really don't think that this is me versus anyone type of thing. I think that this is just figuring out what's best for the country and going that way. And I can agree. Like, there are plenty of things that I'll respectably argue and agree with you on, but when it comes to things like racist talk, I don't think there's any place for that, right? There's freedom of speech, but I don't think that's a freedom that needs to be exercised by the president of the United States. I think that for a president, we need someone who's calm. We need someone who's more conductive, or just more thoughtful with what they say, right? They know the consequences of their actions and the consequences of what they say, because there are very real consequences, and I think some of that's what we're living through now. Yeah, this is too much. It's too long. I think we're done here, folks. I think this is it. No more politics talk from me. That's it. Thank you for hearing me out. I really do appreciate it, and I'm not going to be discussing this in the comments. Like, I'll probably go back and forth a little bit, but just, yeah, I just don't have the mental bandwidth for it, I guess. It's I just figured this was a good video to make, because if I didn't make this video and then things keep getting worse, I'd have a really hard time looking myself in the mirror, right? Just because I know that this is a little bit of influence that I can use to maybe push things one way or the other. And hopefully I'll be able to push you guys the right way. There are, if you look, like Texas has a lot of forward-thinking Republicans, even Texas, right? Like I know everybody thinks Texas is red, but there are some really forward-thinking red Republicans who, while they do care about the oil industry because that is Texas, they also care about pollution. They want to keep the oil industry slightly regulated so that there's less pollution in it, and they want a good future, right? And that's what I think is needed. Okay, we need people that are willing to admit that, hey, these things do cause pollution. I don't think the solution is to get rid of it. I think the solution is X, Y, or B. And I like that. I like when people are willing to do that, and that's what I think we should be looking for on both sides. I don't want, yeah. Yeah, so that's where I stand. I guess those are the big things I'm voting on. Obviously, I didn't touch on like Medicare or universal income or any sort of like COVID relief or anything like that, because for me, while I know that is important, those aren't issues that I'm voting on. And I do actually like Biden's plan for that. So far, I haven't really heard Trump's plan. I'd be curious if those are you guys who know, those are you guys who do know Trump's plan, feel free to comment that down below, because I don't know what his plan is as far as all that stuff goes. I've heard that I've heard him say he has a good plan. I've just never heard him actually like lay out the plan for healthcare. He said his plan is going to be better than Biden's and better than Obama's, but I've never actually seen that plan in action. So I would be curious if you could tell me what that plan is, because you can say it's better, but until you actually lay it out, I don't know. It's the same with these graphics cards, right? Like Nvidia and AMD, like ours is better. It's like let the specs speak for themselves. And in this case, let's see the plan. Let's hear the plan. Let's hear how you're going to pay for it, how you're going to do this. Let's hear what this is going to cost. And obviously, they're politicians, so they're gonna get the cost wrong. I know that, but yeah, that's where I stand on that. And yeah, this video was long. I do appreciate that you guys sat through it. Hopefully it made some sense, and hopefully you guys understand my opinion, because it actually is. This is one of those videos, as I'm making it, literally as I'm sitting here talking, I know how divisive it's gonna be. So yeah, we'll see. I'd be lying if I say I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say, but hopefully you guys take this and make use of it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully November 3rd is going to go off without a hitch, and whichever side wins, hopefully we're going to be going towards a better America. And it shouldn't even be sides winning. It's, do the American people win or do the American people lose? And hopefully we're going to win. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I know this isn't what I normally do, and we're not going to be doing any more of this, but I thought it was important. So yeah, until next time, peace.